Voting selfies up for debate. Calls for highway expansion after deadly crash. Highway 23 construction begins today. These and other local stories are coming up on this edition of Community News Review.
This is Community News Review, a service of WSCS TV, news content provided by WHBL.
I'm Maddie Pfister, and welcome to Community News Review for Monday, May 13th, 2019. Construction of Highway 23 expansion project is officially underway. A groundbreaking ceremony was held last week as city and state officials unveiled the new and very long-awaited project. The highway will go from 2 lanes to 4 on a 19-mile stretch, and the project had been tied up in court for years, with opponents saying it will hurt the environment. Supporters, however, say lives are at stake and the highway has simply been too dangerous. According to the State Department of Transportation, there were 217 crashes on 23 from 2013 to 2017. 6 of those were deadly. It estimates the project will cost over $150 million, and work will begin today, and it is expected to wrap up in the fall of 2022. 3 suspects accused in a Sheboygan drug overdose death are due in court tomorrow. All 3 are expected of supplying the drugs to a man who died from a heroin overdose at the Meade Public Library just over 2 weeks ago. Formal charges were filed last week against 36-year-old Damian Darnell Washington, 28-year-old Peter Bennett II, and 28-year-old Jessica Grande. All 3 suspects have been charged with drug-related felonies. Washington faces 8 felony charges. Bennett was charged with 5 felonies, and Grande was charged with 3. The 3 are accused of supplying the drugs to a man who was found dead in a bathroom stall at the library earlier this month. Charges were filed Thursday in connection with a high-speed pursuit earlier this week in Sheboygan. 26-year-old Zachary Ryan Ashabak of Sheboygan was charged with fleeing or eluding an officer in a vehicle and 2 felony bail jumping charges. On Tuesday, Sheboygan police tried pulling Ashabak over for having an expired license plate. According to a criminal complaint, when officers flashed their lights, he accelerated away from the police northbound on South Business Drive. The chase reached speeds of up to 100 miles per hour until the officer was advised to end the pursuit. The officer was able to later identify him by the license plate. According to the court documents, Ashabak was under the terms and conditions of a bail bond in 2 separate Manitowoc County cases, which include a felony bail jumping charge, and he also has a previous conviction in Sheboygan for fleeing or eluding an officer in a vehicle when he reached speeds of 125 miles per hour. Village leaders in Hortonville are renewing their push to have a busy highway expanded to 4 lanes after a deadly school bus crash last week. Administrator David Detroy says an expansion of Highway 15 has been the subject of partisan bickering, and he would like residents to contact lawmakers in Madison to encourage them to prioritize the project. Detroy reportedly told lawmakers less than a month ago that he would like to see the proposed expansion of Highway 15 given priority in future transportation funding bills. Last Thursday, 10-year-old Noah Taylor died in a 3-vehicle crash involving a school bus. Officers say the crash occurred as the result of slowing traffic as a vehicle was turning left near the intersection of County Road JJ earlier that morning. A vehicle following the car did not slow down fast enough and swerved into the left to avoid hitting the car that was turning. The swerving vehicle was struck by a pickup, then was redirected eastbound in the westbound lane and collided head-on with the bus. Taylor was in the back seat of the car when it struck the bus, and the driver of the vehicle and the bus were both treated for injuries at the local hospital. The driver of the pickup was not hurt, and no students were on the bus at the time of the crash. Spring camping season is here, and the State Agricultural Department is reminding people not to transport firewood. Moving fresh firewood from place to place can spread pests and diseases. Spokeswoman Donna Gilson says that it is not just emerald ash, border, or gypsy moths that they are worried about. There could be insects or diseases that we aren't even aware of. They might have crept up in your firewood, and you don't want to be the first one to introduce it to the state. Gilson says campers should look for markings from the state or the USGA on their wood that it has been properly treated. Either it is one of those ensures it's been treated, probably dried for a couple of years to kill anything in it before it is sent out into the marketplace. You should either use firewood from directly at your campsite or cabin, or purchase safe, treated firewood from a local retailer. Abigail Martin of Milton is the new Allison Dairyland, and she was selected as the state dairy industry's official ambassador at an event in Monroe on Saturday. Starting June 3rd, she will be promoted to Wisconsin's dairy products through a series of appearances on behalf of the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Production. She takes over for Caitlin Riley of Gaze Mills and is the 72nd Alice. Martin grew up on a fourth-generation dairy farm in Milton and holds a dairy sciences degree from UW-Madison. And as a leader in the school's Collegiate Farm Bureau, Badger Dairy Club, and the Association of Women in Agriculture. And finally, the selfie has become part of American culture, but one place it is not welcome is when you're voting. It became the topic of discussion last week during a hearing about proposed bills discussed in a committee to allow an elector to show his or her marked ballot. Brown County Clerk Sandy Juneau tells Fox 11 allowing a voter to take his or her picture with their ballot has consequences. When you take the actual ballot that you voted on and put it on social media, that goes out to everyone, and you have no idea of how that can be used against you. Current law does not allow voters to show his or her marked ballot to any person, and the punishment is a felony, and person could be fined up to $10,000 or go to prison for up to 3 years and 6 months or both. A statement from Republican State Senator Dave Craig, who is a sponsor of the bill, says in part, not only is the prohibition against displaying a marked ballot and a law in the age of social media, it is a clear violation of the voter rights, free speech rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. Juneau says he has concerns in regards to a voter's future or current employer, and if you are in a situation where your employer asks you to show up them how you voted, and based upon that, you're maybe going to get a promotion or maybe you're going to get a demotion. You know, those types of things we don't like to think about as happening, but based upon history, we know that they put the secret ballot in place based upon those types of political mischief that were going on. Those in charge of polling places currently have the authority to maintain order and stop any behavior that is causing a disruption. And that would continue to be true even if taking pictures of marked ballots was decriminalized, said Wisconsin Elections Commission Interim Administrator Megan Wolf. in written testimony. Craig's statement goes on to say the ultimate decision of whether or not to display a ballot should rest with the voters filling them out, not the names printed on them. Court rulings have ballot selfies have been mixed across the country after several cases sprung up from the 2016 presidential elections, and courts in New Hampshire and Indiana found that laws in these states that were prohibit ballot selfies were unconstitutional. Craig noted that the U.S. Supreme Court declined to take up the new case out of New Hampshire after that state law was found to be unconstitutional. However, in Michigan and New York, state laws banning ballot selfies at polling places were upheld. Wisconsin is one of 18 states with a federal bearing that showing of a completed ballot, but it is rarely enforced. Because of the court decisions that follow laws like Wisconsin's to be unconstitutional, the State Elections Commission no longer advises that there is a blanket prohibition against a voter taking a photo of their marked ballot or showing it to any other person. As for the proposed bills, they're in the beginning stages and would have to be passed by the State Assembly and Senate. And that is all we have for today. Join me again next time for another recap of our local news.
News content for this program provided by WHBL in cooperation with WSCS TV.